like to welcome our fourth presenter of the day, Billie Clay.
Hello everyone, my name is Billie Clay, and my thesis is on the harm of social media's unrealistic beauty standards. The Bible is where our identity is found. Where do we go to find the truth about beauty? The Bible clearly states that God created man in his own image, and that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Everyone has been made in the image of God, and everyone is beautiful to him. However, our modern society has twisted the idea of beauty into something only a select few can attain. And the cost of not fitting into these standards can be drastic, harmful, and irreversible. In the worst cases, when the most vulnerable are at risk, those outside these standards are outcast to the point of mental illness. These standards permeate social media, harming young girls by giving them negative perceptions of their own bodies. When Victor Frankenstein created his creature, he intended it to be beautiful, not a monster. However, upon seeing it alive for the first time, he is horrified by its grotesque appearance and soon abandons it, leaving it alone in an unfamiliar world. While exploring its surroundings, the creature encounters multiple people who all react in the same cruel way as Victor. Feeling alone, the creature hides by a cottage, where he observes and admires its occupant's beauty, while sadly growing aware of his own ugliness. One day, the creature decides to approach one of the occupants, a blind man. The man's blindness allows him to accept the goodness the creature has to offer. However, the others soon return, and, judging the creature's appearance, drive him away. The creature soon reconnects with its creator, Victor, begging him to create a companion to help his loneliness. Victor agrees, but soon betrays his word, destroying his female creature before she was completed. Victor soon dies, and the creature, feeling alone and abandoned, secludes himself from the rest of the world to die. While this story is a classic horror tale, suicide from being rejected is not fiction. Bethany Thompson, an 11-year-old girl who had survived brain cancer at age 3, can relate to the monster of Mary Shelley's tale. Like the monster, her appearance was different, and like the monster, she was judged. While she was not made up of dead body parts, Bethany had a crooked smile. Her smile was a result of the life-saving radiation treatment she had received as a toddler. It was a battle scar, showing the world her resilience in beating cancer. However, instead of praising her for her strength, the others at her middle school bullied her relentlessly. One day, it was too much for young Bethany. On October 19th, 2016, Bethany, feeling as alone as Frankenstein's monster, shot herself, ending her life due to the unbearable pain she felt based on her inability to conform to societal beauty standards. While views on beauty vary from person to person, such as some preferring brunettes while others prefer blondes, Western societal beauty standards can be summarized as young and tall, with clear skin, shiny hair, and appealing facial features. The consequences of these standards, negative self-image, anxiety, depression, and eating disorders, need to be defined as well. Self-image is the idea one has of one's abilities, appearance, and personality. So negative self-image is thinking of these attributes as not desirable. Anxiety is an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes like increased blood pressure. Depression involves a depressed mood, or loss of pleasure or interest in activities for long periods of time. Eating disorders are any range of mental conditions in which there is a persistent disturbance of eating behavior and impairment of mental or physical health. While beauty standards have always been a subsection of every culture, their prominence on social media has ultimately done nothing but harm. According to Renee Engel, PhD, author of Beauty Sick, How the Cultural Obsession with Appearance Hurts Girls and Women, images of women on social media are harmful due to the unnecessary amount of photoshopping and negative commentary surrounding them. These images begin affecting girls when they are young, causing feelings of negative self-image and depression throughout their lives, leading to money being spent on unnecessary beauty products and beauty-altering services, such as cosmetic surgeries. While Western cultures have always embraced these standards, countries like Fiji originally valued very different ideals. Traditional Fijian culture values large appetites and views robust bodies as desirable, in part due to their ability to excel in a society dependent on labor. Growing up, Fijian parents encouraged their daughters to eat so that they could gain weight. Eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia were almost non-existent. However, this soon changed with the introduction of Western beauty standards through television. In 1998, researcher Ann E. Becker studied high school-age Fijian girls, 3 years after television was introduced to their small, rural province of Najoka. Becker's interviews with 30 schoolgirls revealed the rapid shift in their perception of beauty after the introduction of television. Where originally, these girls were told that big bodies were beautiful, the images they saw on television taught them the opposite. During the interviews, the girls shared that they found the thin women they saw on television to be beautiful and discussed their attempts to look like these women, exposing their participation in dangerous habits never before seen in Fiji, such as overexercising and undereating. The images shown on television affected not just the young girls, but their parents as well. Instead of teaching that big bodies had more capacity for labor, parents were now telling their daughters that fatness was equivalent to laziness and unproductiveness. Parents were now telling their daughters that if they wanted to be productive in their physical work, such as farming, they needed to have thin bodies. However, losing weight and muscle would actually cause these girls to be less productive in their physically strenuous work. The beauty ideals in Fiji had shifted from a realistic, strong body to the ultra-thin Western standard. Had television never been introduced to these young girls, they never would have been exposed to such harmful ideas of beauty and encouraged to engage in harmful activities to achieve these standards. Everyone has something they long for, whether it be a certain job, house, or family. Some even claim they would give an arm and a leg for whatever it is they want. Today, this expression is used hyperbolically, but when it was first used in 1940s America, it represented how many soldiers had given up parts of their bodies fighting in World War II. Today, most people will not truly give up a part of their body for something. However, some women are going as far as having up to 6 ribs removed in order to attain an hourglass figure. This surgery is dangerous, as it puts the tissue covering the lungs at risk of injury. If women are willing to put their health at risk to achieve the societal standard of beauty, then that standard should not be viewed as ideal. While not all women go as far as paying to have their ribs removed, they still feel a pressure to spend a significant portion of their money on beauty products. One of the most obvious examples of this pressure to spend can be seen in the Sephora kid epidemic circling social media. Tween girls as young as 8 years old have been frequenting the beauty product store, Sephora, spending their parents' money on products trending on social media. While it is normal for tween girls to want to take care of their skin, these Sephora kids are not asking any medical professionals on advice for products that would work for them, such as gentle cleansers, moisturizers, and sunscreen. Instead, they are only buying products that are trending on social media. Most of these products are not made for tween skin, many of them containing the ingredient retinol, which should only be used on aging skin. According to a CNN article by journalist Parija Kavalayans, after using these products, many of the girls had severe reactions, including redness, burning, itching, scaling, and rashes, and some had even worse acne than before. These young girls have damaged their skin, trying to fit into the societal standard of beauty. This standard has given these young girls negative perceptions of their own bodies. Negative perception is not the only mental health issue young girls struggle with. By the time children reach 13, girls' rates of depression begin to rise above that of boys. By the time they are 15, almost twice as many girls are depressed as boys. What causes so many young girls to be depressed? According to a study by Shelley Grape, Janet Shibley-Hyde, and Sarah M. Lindberg, before the gap in depression comes the gap in self-objectification. Self-objectification is viewing oneself as an object to be looked at and evaluated by others. Because girls think of their bodies as objects, they monitor them closely to make sure they fit into whatever beauty is trending at the time. When this close monitoring shows that they don't fit into current beauty standards, it leads girls to be disappointed and unsatisfied with their bodies, which easily leads to serious mental health problems, such as depression. A study by Alison Booms and Julie Lynch further proves how exposure to unrealistic images of women leads to negative self-image. Images of women on social media are unrealistic due to a lack of diversity of race, age, and body type, and the fact that the work that goes into making these women look perfect goes unstated and unnoticed. Participants in the study were exposed to either these unrealistic images or neutral imagery. After exposure to their respective imagery, both groups completed an online questionnaire about how they felt. Those exposed to the unrealistic imagery reported greater negative body image than those exposed to neutral imagery. These unrealistic images are the most popular and most viewed images on social media. On average, women see 5,000 digitally manipulated photographs of models a week. If women already had negative self-image after a quick study, then how badly does viewing these images every day on social media throughout most of their lives affect them? In an interview reported in Beauty Sick, 7-year-old Lee reveals just how soon girls begin internalizing the beauty standards they're exposed to. When asked to describe a beautiful woman, Lee lists off, she has long, straight hair, and she's wearing a lot of makeup and high heels. She's thin. Her arms and legs are thin. This girl is young, only in 1st or 2nd grade, but she already has a distinct idea of what beauty is, an idea that aligns perfectly with current societal beauty standards. When asked whether or not it matters if a girl is pretty, Lee states, "You get more praise." Not only has this young girl internalized modern beauty standards, she has internalized the idea that beauty is important, that it is something to be praised. Lee is not the only young girl showing the negative effects of beauty standards being pushed. According to a study in the International Journal of Eating Disorders, 34% of 5-year-old girls have at least occasionally engaged in dietary restraint. These 5-year-olds are kindergartners who have only just learned how to use a fork and spoon and how to count to 10. Kindergartners should be concerned with learning how to navigate the world, not starving themselves because they're unsatisfied with their bodies. If unrealistic beauty standards were not so heavily pushed, these girls would be able to live their lives properly, learning the alphabet and making friends, free from worries about their bodies. Parents are often the main source of information for their children. Children look up to their parents and tend to believe what they say. When young girls hear their mothers complaining that they look too old or look too fat, they learn that being a woman means hating your appearance. It seems like this problem has an easy solution. Instead of complaining about their own bodies, mothers should praise their daughters for their looks. However, it is not this simple. Even when it is meant as a compliment, commenting on a girl's appearance only reminds her that her appearance is being monitored. Instead of calling a girl beautiful, reinforce the idea that being hardworking, focused, kind, creative, and generous matter more than what she looks like. Girls already receive the cultural message that their worth is determined by their looks. So the best way to counter this message is to not comment on their bodies. Only commenting on a girl's appearance can send the message that her personality does not matter and that no one notices anything besides appearance. Focusing on qualities other than appearance shares the important and true message that being comfortable in one's own skin is more important than what one looks like. While the majority of posts on social media originally promoted the thin ideal, the rise of a movement known as the body positivity movement seems to be working to challenge this. The body positivity movement does this by encouraging women to love themselves regardless of what they look like. Since there's an entire movement dedicated to challenging traditional beauty standards, how could one argue that harmful standards are still being pushed? Those who oppose the body positivity movement claim that it promotes being unhealthy. However, if the movement attempts to break free from the idea that every woman should be as skinny as an edited model, why would this be seen as unhealthy? Those who oppose the movement claim that it promotes being overweight and obese, which leads to health problems. However, those who say this miss the point of the movement. The movement is not communicating that being overweight is the only way to be beautiful. Instead, it is saying that even if you weigh more than the average beauty influencer, you can still love yourself and your body. While being overweight from eating poorly and never working out is unhealthy, attempting to be skinny from never eating and overexercising is just as bad, if not worse. There is no real way to tell if someone is healthy based solely on their looks. So the idea that being skinny means being healthy is unrealistic and dangerous for young girls. The body positivity movement has been working to remedy this, but with very little success. People seem to believe that either if a woman is skinny, she is healthy, but if she is plus size, she is unhealthy. Social media influencers are not the only ones posting body positive content. Many brands have begun using advertisements, supposedly promoting loving yourself. One of the most obvious examples of this type of advertising is the Dove campaign for Real Beauty. Beginning in 2004, Dove began releasing advertisements featuring real women. These women were not the typical perfect models seen in ads by other brands. Instead, their flaws of wrinkles, curves, or freckles were proudly on display. This inclusivity is not something Dove promoted only in 2004, but something they have continued to promote throughout the years. On their website, Dove defines its Real Beauty pledge as 4 points: real, diversity, autonomy, and body confidence. With such a well-known brand releasing advertisements featuring women outside of traditional beauty standards, how could one say that harmful standards are still being pushed? One must ask, is Dove even trying to change the standard? Consider the casting call of no tattoos, no scars, flawless skin, beautiful hair, and bodies that fall nicely between not too curvy and not too athletic. It is evident that this campaign cannot achieve the goal it claims to have. While showing the world women outside the standard is a step towards change, loudly proclaiming just how different they are is not. When women see the ads, it is easy for them to still feel like they don't measure up. And even if they can see themselves in the women of the ads, it is just a reminder of how unattainable beauty is and how flawed they feel. Even if it is true that body positive brands and influencers post body positive content to encourage women to love themselves, this only creates a new impossible standard. Women who have known their whole lives that they don't fit into traditional beauty standards are now being told to love themselves despite this. This order to love yourself only serves as a reminder that society does not love them. The constant focus on real beauty only reminds women that society does not see them as beautiful. Constantly reminding women that they don't fit into beauty standards will not make them happy with their bodies. Showing women outside the standard without talking about their bodies will have a real effect. Encouraging women to take care of their bodies and appreciate what it does for them is a better way to encourage self-love than simply ordering them to love themselves. Discussing nutrition and how food is important will discourage eating disorders. Claiming women should do whatever they want with their bodies can actually be harmful and encourage unhealthiness. Focusing on women's bodies only reminds them of the constant surveillance they are under. While the body positive movement is a step in the right direction and has good intentions, in its current form, it is not as helpful as it could be. Influencers should focus on physical and mental health, and brands should focus on being truly diverse, rather than loud about being diverse. The constant onslaught of unrealistic images seen daily affect many women. While the body positivity movement has been working to remedy this, it has had very little success. While the whole of society will not be able to change at once, it is important that everyone does their best to limit the effects of unrealistic standards in their own lives. In her book, Beauty Sick, Renee Engel gives us a few pointers of where to start. Her advice includes: turn down the volume, stop the body talk, put the focus on function over form. If parents were to implement these points in their young daughters' lives, it could create an environment of mental health that is so necessary in the world today. Thank you. I would now like to open the floor for questions.
Great job, Billie. I feel like your talk needs to be given to every parent of young girls. I think it's really important, and it's hard to figure these things out. The one thing, your discussion of Fijian women was fascinating to me, and I guess it seems like it's hard to get away from images because it's been thrown at us all the time. I'm just curious, like, in reflecting, what are some ways that we can push back against that? Because it seems almost inevitable that the images are going to shape us, that kind of thing.
Well, I talked about, like, parents should, talk to their daughters about these things and, like, tell them that beauty really isn't all that important. Like, it's just one aspect of, like, your whole personality, like, and just, like, limit, like screen time, because, social media has so many, like, unrealistic images, so just,
Especially like on a personal level or speaking to your peers in high school, like, what would you advocate, I guess, if that makes sense?
I just, like, say focus on the other parts of yourself, because, like, if you have a good personality, like, that's really what most people are going to notice.
Yeah, thank you. Good job.
You did do a great job, Billie. So I'm always convicted anytime I hear something like this. And we sort of try and make it all about young girls, but young girls get those thought processes from somewhere, and it's from the older girls, which would be us. And I love that you discuss how we talk about our daughters, about telling them they look beautiful, that what we should do instead is focus more on aspects of their personality. I love what you said about form over function. I have 6 granddaughters. I want them to grow up to be like what you said at the beginning of your paper, that we find our identity in the Bible. Where do we go to find the truth about beauty? And in your research, did you go and look any more in the Bible to see what it does say about beauty? Because I think we as a society define beauty as how we look. Does the Bible define it as something else?
I feel like the Bible, I didn't really do too much research into that, but I feel like it's like your identity with God is what's truly, like, will be beautiful to, other Christians. If they see you have a good relationship with God, then it's beautiful,
Well, you did a beautiful job. You're beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder of the things that we should be focusing on. You did a great job today.
Billie, I really appreciate all of the research that you did. Your paper was very thoughtfully presented with good supporting evidence. But I'm always curious, anytime I hear anyone sing your thesis, would you mind telling everyone why you chose this topic?
I just chose it because so when we were picking our topics, last year I really had no idea what I wanted to do. So I kind of picked something random. I was like, I don't really want that, so I need to find something I actually like. And I went home, like, that night, and I was just, like, scrolling on YouTube, and I saw this video about, like, this account that, like, would edit photos of girls and, like, give them pointers of how to look beautiful. And I was like, that's kind of messed up, actually. Maybe I should write my thesis on that. I did.
You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
I am a little curious to know, so it seems like unhealthy beauty standards are not just on social media, but kind of in different aspects of society. You focused in on social media, so sometimes causation and correlation are completely different things, but what is it specifically about social media that you think that, what are the characteristics of social media that are particularly harmful, like, as opposed to, like, parental opinions of you, or other, like, peer opinions of you, or whatever? What is it about social media in particular that's particularly harmful?
So one of the things is like how easy it is to like Photoshop yourself and have no one notice. 'Cause like if you see a picture of a woman, you're not going to be like, oh, that was probably Photoshopped. You're going to be like, oh, she's so beautiful. Like, I wish I looked like that. That's one of the things. And then also like comments, like if you post on social media, you're going to get negative comments about you. So I think those are the main things.
And I'm always amazed at this. We have so many, I think you touched on this yesterday, Mr. Davis, we have so many negative topics about social media. Would you be an advocate for your peers to completely, like a ban on social media among your peers? Would you advocate for that? Because it, in other words, does the benefit outweigh the risk?
I don't think they need to completely abandon it. I think it's more of like, you need, oh, what's the word? I don't know either. Moderation, yes. You need moderation and like not spend your whole day on there. Like, I know Leela's mom yesterday was saying like, that's how they keep in touch with their family. So like, it's good for that, but just mindlessly scrolling, like, I would not recommend that. Yes.
So you've said a lot about how social media and its beauty standards affect women, but what are some ways it affects men? Because I know this is on both sides of the aisle kind of thing.
That's such a good question. So I think that like, obviously there are men who are affected because there is like an ideal man, you know. However, I feel like it is not as heavily pushed. Like the ideal man is not seen as like the standard of what every man should be. It's, you know what I mean? Whereas like every woman feels like she has to measure up to this unrealistic standard. But I feel like for the most part, you know, obviously there are exceptions, but for the most part, society is not so focused on men.
I have a question, Billie. What would you say to someone who, after listening to your presentation, the issue is nutrition, and you do go into detail about that in your paper. What can we do to make the conversation be about taking care of ourselves in terms of nutrients that our bodies need every day?
I'd say that like rather than like going on a diet that like restricts things, go on a diet that like adds things to your meal. Like rather than, oh, you can only have so many calories a day. Say like, you can have like this meal, but you want to add like your vegetables, your fruits, everything to that meal. So.
That's great, thank you.
All right, if there are no more questions, thank you for your time.